This is the news released by the Chinese government spokesperson's Global Time. Hello everyone, welcome to the Power Academy. In this topic, we will going to discuss why the trade between the India and the China increased. What is the reason behind it? And what the India is doing to reduce this trade burden from China? And what are the reasons that the India has to import more amounts of goods from the China instead of importing the more amounts of goods? We will all going to discuss in this topic. Now let's talk about this. As we all know, the Chinese data are not reliable enough, although laughable, because the original figure of the trade between the India and the China is $125.66 billion. But the Global Times makes it $126 billion for their and their government's own comfort, because the Global Times wants to satisfy their bosses in the Communist Party of China. But the one thing all he wants to know that how the China came up with that data, because the financial year not over yet. It will end in the April 2022. Because China is a country which do not work with the world's rule book. They think they are the different creatures from the another planet, and they think of themselves the superior of all human beings. Therefore, they set the 1st January as their financial year beginning and the 31st December as their financial year ending, which is very unique in nature and fascinating to keep their position first in the world, because they want to keep their position first in the world. The world knows the China as an authoritarian nation. They captured the Tibet in the 1951. They also captured the Xinjiang, which used to be an independent nation before 1950s. But they are trying to capture the Indian Union Territory Ladakh and the eastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. Only reason is that their history, their manufactured history, they said the Arunachal Pradesh is in southern Tibet according to their history. So they claim the Arunachal Pradesh their own land. But how during this conflicting time, the business between the India and the China grows at a staggering rate of 43.3%. What is the reason behind it? Because during the 2020 peak Wuhan virus pandemic, the China and the Indian trade reduced to less than $88 billion. In the most precise data, it is $87.3 billion. The reason behind the increase in the import this time, because the India is producing the massive COVID vaccine. India is producing its own indigenously developed COVID vaccine. And India is also exporting those vaccines to the nations. India is donating those vaccines to the other nations, to the African countries, to the some Asian countries, to the Afghanistan, to the Central Asian countries. So, to produce these vaccines, the manufacturers, actually the pharmaceutical companies, needs the raw material which India do not produce. Indian companies do not produce the raw material for the pharmaceutical manufacturing, for the vaccines. So India simply import the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is API, from China. And to import those things which is very costly in nature, India has to do it, because India do not have enough API productions. And why India do not have the API industries? What is the reason behind that India do not have the API industries? I have also included the definitions of the API. If someone wants to get through it, then please get through this. The first reason is China itself, who aggressively promoted its API industry by giving its domestic manufacturers the huge tax cut in comparison with the Indian manufacturings. Because the Indian government did not able to give the manufacturers of the API industries the enough tax cut. And this makes the API, the Chinese API, 20% cheaper than the India's APIs. And China also have the forced labor and they do not have the proper labor rules due to their authoritarian regime. But in India, that is not possible because India is a proper democratic nation with the proper rule book. So the China forcefully reduced the price of the API to kill all the country's market, those who are in the API industry. The India wanted to get into an API industry, but the India was able to get only 6 to 7% reduction in the prices, but the China in the comparisons to the Indian's market was giving the 13 to 14%, and that is a huge difference in the business. So that is why India was unable to grow its API market at the same rate the China grew. Also, the API industry is creates the huge pollutions. So the intense pollution checkup also required from the state agencies. China implemented and the China manipulated all these because of their authoritarian structure. And the autocratic, they are autocratic in nature. They do not have the proper rule book. They make the rule, their leaders make the rules. They do not have the proper parliaments. So their leaders only makes the rules. For the India, it is an impossible task to avoid any law that is inscribed within the rule book. For Indian companies, it is very impossible to dodge those rules because India have the proper democratic structures. Within that proper democratic structure, there are so many democratic agencies. They do not work under the government, they work independently. And if they caught out that these kind of industries are doing nuisance in doing the businesses, then they have to stop doing the businesses. But in China, this is a different scenario. Because of being an authoritarian country, the leader what the leaders thinks fit for the country, that is implemented by the country and the country's organizations. There are no independent organizations like the India do have. They are all in the China, they are all ruled by the Chinese Communist Party. Also, the API industry needs the huge investment to keep it clean, as if it is related to the medicines. That's why they need the certificate from the other developed nation like the USA especially, and the some Western European nation countries. For the USA, that certificate, that API certificate provides by the US's FDA. What is FDA? FDA is Food and the Drug Administrator, which is a very tough regulatory body to crack. So you cannot crack the rule which is set by the FDA. But the China do implement those rules by forcefully implementing it, and by forcefully and force their labor to follow the rules very strictly. So, but the scenario has changed in the recent years. How? We will going to discuss it. In the recent years, basically after the pandemic, the US's Food and the Drug Administration delivered more API certificate to the Indian industries, those who are more interested to develop the API industry in India. But why the Indian businesses failed to comply? They did not fail. To build an API industry, at least 3 years required with a massive investment. India being a $3.1 trillion economy do not have the enough money for the investment. But the China being an almost 15 trillion or 18 trillion dollar economy, they do have the investment, they do have the money to invest in the API industries. But the India do need the investment. And that is why recently the Indian government gave the huge tax cut for the API industry. But the results will be visible by 2023. It is not possible to get the results within 1 year. It needs at least 3 to 4 years to get the proper results. So for that results we have to wait. Also in this report, which is released by the Global Times, we came to know the Chinese export to the India were $97.52 billion, up by the 46.2%. while the China imported only 28.14 billion worth of goods from India, and that is an also in the upside, which is 34.2%. All these data are according to the general administrations of the custom China. India's data are not yet available. It will be available in the April. One alarming news is that the trade deficit between the two countries remained much higher in the favor of China. China is importing, China is exporting the more amounts of goods to the India. Comparisons, the India is exporting it. That is why the BOP crisis is there, $69 billion. The difference between the China and the India's businesses is $69 billion. That is an alarming fact. Although the India banned so many Chinese businesses to do the businesses in India, that's the trade deficit mainly for the API's import. India have to import the API this time because India's vaccine manufacturers do needs these APIs, and India as if the India do not have the API industry or the API infrastructure. That is why India have to import those things from China, because comparisons to the other countries' API, the Chinese APIs are less expensive. So India and the China is the 15th largest trade partner in 2021, and the China also overtook the USA to become the India's largest trading partner. So in my view, India have to work on their primary goods, especially in this kind of industries, and also in the agricultural goods, because the Indians' agricultural market is pretty stagnant. So India have to open its agricultural market for the outsiders, and then and only then India will grow the way the China has been growing. China had been growing since the 1980s, when the USA came and gave them some relief in doing the businesses, and the China also opened their economy for the world for the first time. So India has to open their economy in a proper way. So that is why the India is doing some free trade agreement with Australia, with UK, and with Israel and the UAE and the various other countries. India is doing the individual FTA. India is not getting into groups to do the businesses, and that is a very good sign for India and the Indian businesses. And the India's unicorns means India's startup, the $1 billion startup. India is in 4th positions. India's ranking is increasing in nature. So this is a very good sign. But the results will be available after the 2 and 3 years. This is not possible to get the results in immediate basis, because to run or to stand up with a business, it is a very different issue. So India is doing by implementing the Make in India program, and that is a very good program implemented by the government of India. So that is why India is reducing its imports on defense sector. India is also reducing its import in the other sectors. India has also gave the tax benefit to the EV manufacturer, electrical vehicle manufacturers. So many things India is doing. India is also doing the Atmanirbhar Bharat program. Indian government trying to give the tax cut to the Indian industries, those who wants to open the businesses within the country. And India is also advising the other organizations to come and open the businesses in India, then sell the goods over here. You cannot simply import the goods from the other nation at the cost of the Indian money. So India is doing everything to reduce this. So India will going to reduce it in no time. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.